We are live. This is the market update. Why is crypto going down? Why is there no bounce? Is this the end? No. Is there a problem with the Bitcoin ETF? There could be. I think that's what the selling was about today, February 3rd. We will talk about that because there's enough FUD out there for 10 people. And I think that's the most bullish thing about crypto. We will also discuss Michael Saylor. Everybody thinks it's the end of the world for Michael Saylor. I disagree. Matter of fact, I think the world is about to go in Michael Saylor's favor, even if the market goes down. I know, crazy. And we will also discuss some of the things that we gave Patreon, and we will be talking about the YouTube members tomorrow morning, where we discuss the fact that there still is 2 weeks to go until the eclipse, which can create a lot of volatility. Volatility is legacy jargon for downside possibility. But before we get into that, please like and subscribe. Check out our channel and our premium groups for research. The best way to navigate a total disaster is with research. Patreon links are down below, and Eagle King, the producer, will put up QR codes. There is Patreon, and we have YouTube member area. Now, let's get into it. First of all, let's dissect over the weekend what exactly happened. The first thing that happened was Bitcoin didn't go anywhere for a period of weeks. When Bitcoin sits completely still, it's the ghost of 2018. 2018, the market sat still for 3 months. Bitcoin sat still for 3 months, and then there was a fundamental event with Bitcoin miners, and Bitcoin went from 6,000 to 3,000, and that was that. This was no different. 90K was a big level. That was going all the way back to December. Nobody thought the market could go down. Everybody was waiting for it to get back above 90, including me. And then when that failed rally at 90 occurred, the last one, right before the weekend, I was like, oh my God. You know, I did 1 or 2 streams where it was like, this is a trap. The eclipse is coming. And I knew the market was going to not do well, but I had no idea it was going to go to 73. Now, why did it go to 73? Okay, let's go back to the gold and silver top. So Jerome Powell comes out and says U.S. debt is unsustainable in a blatant attempt to sabotage the market. Then the new Fed chairman comes in, or at least is announced, who will replace Powell in May, last name Warsh. Now, he's a big fan of lower interest rates, but he's not a big fan of printing. Now, that really has nothing to do with crypto because they have to print no matter what. But Wall Street used it as cover. They used this announcement to literally go into the plumbing of the precious metals market and effectively create a top. You could use the word manipulation, but all is fair in love and war. They went in there and they crushed it. Now, why did they do that? Well, I'm sure big Wall Street players are short. I'm also sure that at silver at $125, you have demand destruction, which is a nice way of saying that anybody who actually has to physically use silver, A, may not be able to get it, and B, even if they can, it's too expensive and it blows up their manufacturing process. So they called up Wall Street because, you know, that is how people who need huge amounts of commodities, they either do it themselves or they use commodity trading houses, AKA Wall Street, to get access to large amounts of futures contracts or ETFs to take delivery. So they call up Wall Street and they're like, hey guys, if you want to have us as a customer, is there anything we can do to just stop this? Because we're going to blow up if it goes through 125. Now, even if they weren't asking for help, Wall Street gets into a meeting and goes, either we're going to blow up or our customers are going to blow up if this continues to go up. So we got to do something. Now, here's what they did. Basically, they caught an over-leveraged, wild, frothy market, long to the gills, which includes tokenized silver, which we'll get into. And they essentially made it so that, everybody had to sell silver all at once. I mean, they can't do this all the time, but they went into the mechanisms of the ETFs and the futures contracts, and they essentially created an artificial flush, which triggered stop loss selling from weak hands. Now, that by itself, I mean, it's a commodity market. It's been going up. It's been up only. There was a correction. Okay. But then in crypto, the margin babies. So here's what happens. Margin babies in crypto on Hyperliquid and other places were pledging crypto collateral to get 10x long tokenized silver because we're bored and we are greedy. So they get uber leveraged on silver. Crypto, their collateral starts to slip a little. Wall Street blows out the weak hands in precious metals. And then suddenly, in crypto, the tokenized silver is dropping. The value of the collateral they pledged is dropping. And then all of a sudden, you have like a baby FTX moment or a baby 1010 where everybody's got to sell their tokenized silver or they're getting liquidated and Hyperliquid is selling their collateral in the open market. Hence Bitcoin vaporizing when silver vaporized. That's exactly what happened. Crypto was so long silver that when silver topped, it exacerbated the silver move and it created a down move in crypto. Isn't it wonderful? Crypto is the only market that I know that has it's like woven into the fabric of the market, a self-destruct mechanism. We blow ourselves up. Now that that's over with, right? And silver is just going to either find a range or go back up again, whatever, right? Demand destruction is 125. So at 125, they have to switch to a different metal. And there was all this talk about a monetary reset. Yeah, a little. Okay. But that's all froth that you see at a top. Again, TikTok, 35,000 TikTok subscribers. Me, 35,000. A video on why silver is going up. Very simple. 467,000 views. And that built up over time. That was not some random thing that just TikTok just pushed out to a bunch of people. Retail was so interested in silver. 400,000 views. 10x the number of subscribers saw that video. Huge interest. Huge froth. It's a commodity market. Okay. Now, everyone, of course, thinks that people were going to roll gold and silver profits into crypto. And of course, A, that was never true. And B, that's even less true than it was because everybody who had silver profits didn't take them. They all got blown out on Hyperliquid. So instead of buying crypto with their silver profits, they don't have silver profits and they got liquidated in crypto. Now, what happened around that was that people have to start trying to explain what happened. Now, I just did, but of course, that's not what gets engagement farming on Twitter. So the explanation is there's something wrong with crypto. The Fed guy's not going to print. And then there's this, what I call the law enforcement issue. and how this, we're going to call him the billionaire. The billionaire is apparently involved in core Bitcoin development, which I don't believe. Or this individual was an early stage investor in Coinbase, which I do believe. Now, this creates an issue. So a nefarious individual invests in Coinbase. Coinbase is the custodian for all of the Bitcoin inside the Bitcoin ETF. Like, they're holding just about everybody's Bitcoin, BlackRock, everybody. And compliance departments inside Legacy, like technically in public pension funds that have bought the Bitcoin ETF, are going to start asking themselves, or at least they will for a day, are we involved or enabling something that was seed funded by a bad person? Now, that could create Bitcoin ETF selling, and just the fact that the Bitcoin ETF is not performing. It's like, if you were a stock market investor, be honest, would you buy the dip? Would you buy gold and silver down 20%? Or would you buy Bitcoin that's been rotting on the vine for over a year? You would probably dump the Bitcoin and buy gold and silver, particularly if you're underinvested in gold and silver. It's that simple. Nothing personal. Nothing wrong with Bitcoin. Nothing wrong with crypto. Now, if you want to know why this market today, February 3rd, printed 73K, that's why. That's why. Because this billionaire investor, being attached to Coinbase, produced, I think, ETF-related selling or redemptions or whatever. And how long can that go on? As long as Bitcoin stays weak. In other words, I hate to tell you this, but in front of the eclipse, the biggest problem for Bitcoin isn't Bitcoin. It's not crypto. It's not the crypto narrative. I mean, the AI narrative, if anything, is picking up. Polymarket has got increasing odds of an AI agent suing a human at some point. AI agents are now hiring humans to do human things. So the AI world is here. Bitcoin and crypto as a part of the AI world is a thesis that is so intact. It's not even funny. McAfee, I should have the links in front of me. McAfee, AI McAfee, is now active on a platform called Moltbook. The AI agent, the resurrection of John McAfee, is now on some sort of version of Reddit that is only for AI agents. Humans can't use it. So the crypto narrative is intact. What's not intact is this more sellers than buyers problem, which could have ended today because, you know, these law enforcement headline things, you know, they come, they go. Okay. They come, they go. But there's still 2 weeks to go until the eclipse. So if there's something out there and it's weird, or they just start allocating money out of crypto. All right. Further disturbing me is the fact that at the low 2 days ago, Vitalik decided to sell $1 million in Ethereum. Am I still on the air? Okay. I think I'm still on the air. Okay, so we have Vitalik selling Ethereum to Tom Lee. Tom Lee from Bitwise, I believe the name of the company is. Okay. Is now got the largest loss in the history of trading, something like $6 billion. Wow. Let's go to Michael Saylor. Good news, bad news. His average price at 76K. It is totally logical from a technical analysis standpoint to have the average price of a big position to get revisited. to just, snap the glove on and give whoever it is a little check. Very common in markets. The average price that he has was going to get tested. And it's getting tested. All right. And, he's lived with this before. He was 50% underwater after FTX and stayed there for 6 months. So I don't know why everyone thinks he's going to panic. If anything, there's good news. Like his stock, MicroStrategy Strategy, is now trading and is worth less than the Bitcoin that it holds. People are trading the stock like it's a software company that's going to go out of business. Now, the beautiful thing about it is that hedge funds can stop doing this arbitrage. As a matter of fact, I think it's great that the recent drop in Bitcoin, when Michael Saylor's average price got tested, resulted in hedge funds removing this arbitrage, buying MicroStrategy stock back, and dumping the Bitcoin. Because that's what they do. They buy Bitcoin, they sell MicroStrategy. When they unwind it, they buy MicroStrategy and just dump the Bitcoin. Just dump it. Well, that's over. They made money. That trade is no longer viable. MicroStrategy used to trade 3 times as much. It was 3 times. The price was 3 times as much, or the company was worth 3 times as much as the Bitcoin that it holds. Now it's worth, I don't know, like 10% less than the Bitcoin it holds. That's over. And if there's a problem with the Bitcoin ETF, Michael Saylor has $5 billion worth of Bitcoin custodied at Fidelity. And if he had to move out of Coinbase, he could push a button and move out of Coinbase. I don't think the ETF guys can do that. So MicroStrategy as a baby Bitcoin ETF might have some value again. That and hedge funds can just get out of the market, take their profits on this trade, and stop selling Bitcoin, right? With this trade over, whether you understood what I was saying or not, hedge funds no longer have to dump Bitcoin as a part of this annoying arbitrage trade. That is the good news. So let's frame it all in good news. FUD on Twitter is absurd. Talk of this billionaire being directly involved in Bitcoin development is ridiculous, right? And even if it's not ridiculous, who wrote a check for research and who was involved in that has nothing to do with the use and the use case in an AI world. That is Twitter engagement farming as far as I'm concerned. The ETF thing, maybe it comes, maybe it goes. Okay, I'm personally worried that story can gain traction over a 2-week period, but I think it still comes and goes. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy right now, today, in my opinion, strategy is better than the Bitcoin ETF. It is less risk, less custody risk. If there was ever, God forbid, something wrong, if the world started to give Coinbase the stink eye. But how long can that really last? I mean, Coinbase got the investment money in 2014, for God's sakes. So I told Patreon to fade the FUD. Fade the FUD. In other words, we are at the opposite point, or we are approaching the opposite point that we were at in Bitcoin at 126. From 126 all the way down to 100, even 90, everyone was like, oh, bullish. Everything is bullish. BlackRock is buying, blah, 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 blah on Twitter. Now it's the other way around. Now it's all engagement farming. Oh my God, look who Satoshi is. Oh my God. I don't know. And I don't even think they have this ETF thing figured out yet. But again, all engagement farming with negativity. Wrong. That part is wrong. It's wrong. Now, where does Bitcoin bottom? I don't know. When does it bottom? Probably off this eclipse. Our highest rated scenario is for like a 75-95 range with a 15% chance of a dramatic rally and a 35% chance or a 30-something% chance that this thing just gets completely washed out to, like, 64 or 50 or some crazy number. The base case is for this thing to just sort of find its footing near 75. And of course, it looks terrible. Like today, it was like, oh my God, it's going to zero. I don't think it's going to zero. I mean, Polymarket says it could go to 65. That's the highest. That's the big bet on Polymarket. 78% chance that Bitcoin goes to 65, a 55% chance that it goes to 55. Okay. Could that happen? Yeah. If there's a problem with the ETF or people just start selling the ETF every single day, nothing personal, but how long can that last? 2 weeks? AI agents are out there and active. Plus the charts. Now let's go to some TA. So let's go to SLV. That's the silver ETF, because I think this is where all the froth was. Retail was playing in this. They couldn't play in the regular futures contract, so they did the ETF. Okay, and then of course, crypto ninnies all did tokenized silver. So, wild top here. No DeMark signal, really, no warning. All right, but it goes all the way down to a DeMark support point. It's where the parabolic rally started. It really couldn't even get to that 60 level. Now, when you look at the weekly chart, we talked about this, that there were 13 tops on weekly charts in silver and gold, right? It rushes up, it pressures the emotional point, the blow off top point, and then boom. So this is like textbook DeMark in many ways. You go to Bitcoin, okay, going in the opposite direction, just down, 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 down. 73 is the big DeMark level there, which they tested. And this number 7 means you can have 3 more days of downside. So they can pressure this thing for 3 more days before you might expect some kind of reversal or some kind of reprieve. And I'm even starting to look at stuff like Solana. You have a 9 bottom in Solana, and Solana is now a double-digit Tootsie Roll coin. Internet capital markets was what they were talking about at the start of the year. It's now a double-digit Tootsie Roll. Now, I don't know about internet capital markets, but I don't think Solana long-term is a double-digit Tootsie Roll coin. I don't. Even if they have to hit it again. What is the case for ETH? Because that's people are going to start this in ETH again. What is the case to send ETH back below 2,000? What is the case for that? ETH usage, as Tom Lee points out, the usage of the Ethereum network has never been higher. It goes up every day. So they want to sell ETH below 2,000? Really? I mean, the only way that can happen is if they start dumping the ETF. Now, by the way, without going through every single chart, which we could do, but everything is trading at its discount zone, right? There's a floor. The only thing that's not at its discount zone, frighteningly, is XRP, right? Bitcoin is at its discount zone at 75. What is the rationale to sell into the discount zone? There isn't any. For a crypto person, there is no reason to sell into the discount zone. None. Because they've done the move. Now, let's talk about privacy and Zcash and risk and reward. Okay, we went over this with Patreon. They have the level. I'm not giving you the level now. But here's the deal, okay? I'm going to actually take this off the chart so you can see it. So we have Zcash. We have easy peasy 20x up only, followed by have this hideous hack, meaning chop, down, up, down. Now, there's a level in here that has to hold, but this, I think, is a 4 wave. This 4 means that you had, easy peasy up is a 3 wave, and this awful hacky correction is very much a 4 wave. Now, what does that mean? That means there will eventually be a 5 wave, meaning there will eventually be up only returning to Zcash. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 in Zcash is that it takes out the level that we specified in our Patreon report, and then it just goes to 50. Those are your choices. Now, do you believe in the privacy narrative? I can tell you right now, we'll be going over it tomorrow on the YouTube member area, but we won't be talking about 50. We'll be talking about charts maybe, but we won't be talking about 50 in Zcash. What we will be talking about is that they've literally smashed all this stuff. Like it was like, Monero was going to 1,000 and you were never going to see it again in your lifetime. And Monero, I don't know, went back to what? 400? Some crazy number? Let me see. Oh, no, 382. Look at this. See, Monero gave you a perfect ABC correction. Hard to see, but, Monero went all the way up, and then it went A, B, C. Retracing most of the December rally from last year. Now, what's even more incredible is that, as I understand it, the new federal budget has paved the way for a CBDC. The Genius Act, which was supposed to be the dawn of stablecoins, and it is, but I understand that there are loopholes in there that stablecoin companies can freeze your funds. It's just, yeah, they're going to issue government debt to the stablecoin companies, but I don't know that the stablecoin market is a free market, or whether they can just come in and shut you off at any point. Which brings to the forefront Zcash, which has shielded transactions, Monero, which is harder to get a hold of, but is the ultimate privacy play, the Matrix token from Antivirus, which is coming out, where they will actually be able to deposit Zcash and Monero and get a private stablecoin. So you can deposit $100 worth of a privacy coin and mint $50 worth of a private stablecoin. That's the way they're going to design it. Privacy gets more important every day, because allegedly everybody is pro crypto until either crypto goes down or you start reading the fine print and you find out that they want to take your freedom and your money regardless of who's in power. Regardless. This was a very tough sell at the top of, red cap mania, on the inauguration in January of 2025. 1 year later, I think it's a much easier sell to be giving the stink eye to global sovereigns. I mean, you see this raid of the Twitter offices in Europe. I mean, every single day, they move closer to an insane future. Everyone's worried about Skynet and machines, kind of more worried about what humans are doing. And of course, at the exact moment where you would go, hey, wait a minute, this is where we want to be: long privacy, long Bitcoin, long ETH. We want to be involved. We're all selling. This is the ultimate oxymoron of crypto. In other words, you could sit here on a 1 hour stream and you could go, okay, well, let's go over, this is it, FUD 1, FUD 2, FUD 3, FUD 4. Okay. The FUD is the eclipse. And when the eclipse is over, everyone's going to turn around and go, why are we selling? Why did we dump Zcash to 200 something? Why did we not buy the dip in Monero? right? It's that simple. And I think what is also happening is people are starting to give up on the whole concept of crypto. I think that is unquestionably involved if everybody is actually cheering for the liquidation of Michael Saylor. First of all, that's not going to happen, right? He doesn't have to. I mean, he might have to sell Bitcoin, but some Bitcoin, but he's going down with the ship. He could go to zero and he's not going to liquidate. He's not. So the fact that his average price is getting tested, I think if he gets tested and it holds, no matter how ugly the test is, remember, nobody will ever be able to buy the amount of Bitcoin that Michael Saylor has. Nobody. No one entity. You know, BlackRock, that's the Bitcoin ETF, but that's different. That's money coming into the system. We're talking about one individual, one entity, one company. No one will ever be able to do it without massively impacting price. He's got a moat around that company, and no one knows that. No one understands it, or they did and they forgot. But if his average price gets tested and it holds, and it's going to hold, it's going to hold, right? I mean, it may not hold today, but I mean, after the eclipse, Bitcoin's going to be back above 75. Bitcoin's probably going to be back above 85 after the eclipse, because people are going to go, why are we selling? Right? Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana are better than gold and silver for a monetary reset, because gold and silver are rocks used in an industrial process. The silver move is about the AI data center build out, which, by the way, is getting enormous. It's actually moving not only the overall economy, but it's moving small cap stocks. Even Walmart crossed $1 trillion valuation today, and that has nothing to do with AI, right? The AI data center build out is lifting. It's lifting everything except crypto, but that will change. That will change because crypto is going to be the primary path of AI agents. You know, like I said, John McAfee is on AI agent Reddit. This is we've been talking about this. It's going to happen. It is happening. And everyone's ignoring it. And like I said, Polymarket has a 78% chance that an AI agent sues a human sometime in the near future. And we're all talking about the valuation of a rock. The rocks are needed for an industrial process. Everyone's like, oh, it must be a monetary reset. See, this is what happens with Twitter, right? Prices go up, and then the engagement farmers have to assign a narrative, which may or may not be correct. Yeah, it's a monetary reset. Yeah, the dollar has to go lower. Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, gold went to 5,000. Okay. Gold's been dormant for 15 years. You know, let these guys have their day. But it's not just like, oh my God, it's a monetary reset because silver is going up. It's the end of the dollar. Oh my God. No. You know what? It's the end of the dollar when Bitcoin goes to 250. That is the end of the dollar or the yen or fiat. By the way, you do have a Japanese election coming up on the 8th of February. Another recipe for volatility, both in U.S. assets, because the Japanese may sell U.S. assets and bring the money home. That's very possible. That could impact government bonds or stocks. But how long do you think it's really going to take before the Japanese public discovers Bitcoin? What happens if whatever they do on this election backfires and you have foreign exchange volatility? Volatility is contagious. You started with Japanese interest rate volatility. Then you had gold and silver volatility. Now you have crypto volatility. Could that spread to treasuries and equities? Sure. And of course, crypto can also be volatile going the other way, which is something that we've detailed in the latest Patreon report, like the dates, the times, the prices, when it's going to happen, why it's going to happen. We've talked about it. You know, whatever FUD you're hearing about now, you were hearing some other form of that FUD when Bitcoin was at 77 over the tariff hysteria. Doesn't pay. It pays to not be in coins you don't believe in or coins that are going to get vaporized if Bitcoin breaks down. right? In other words, if Bitcoin breaks down, it's because of the ETF, period, end of story. That's it. That's it. They're just, everyone piled in, and they might pile out for a variety of reasons. The problem with crypto is the ETFs at this point. Now, that eventually ends, and someone goes, wow, MicroStrategy's cheap. Wow, the miners are cheap. Wow, Bitcoin is cheap. I mean, people thought Bitcoin at 126 was going, everybody had a target, including us, of 180, and you were never going to see sub 6 figures again. Now, all of a sudden, you're confronted. You have 75, and Bitcoin is sitting on its discount zone with every LuxAlgo reversal signal in the world, showing the chart here. Okay. Right? So here's Bitcoin doing its 2018. And then here's Bitcoin doing its 2018. Right to the discount zone. I mean, we were in the middle of the discount zone today in Bitcoin. I can't even remember the last time that happened. Right. And of course, it's just, you know, they're kind of just sitting on it. Everyone's all worried. But there are buy signals. There are reversal signals. DeMark work shows, you know, we have 3 days, and then we can evaluate and hope that there isn't a failed rally. Now, let's go back to worst case scenario. What happens if everybody in stonks gives up on Bitcoin? Like, who will be left? Crypto people are flushed out, convinced that this is not going up ever again. I think that was true before the market went down. Like, people in crypto are just like, I can't take it anymore, and they're throwing in the towel. And if they under allocate in equities when they should be adding to their allocation, it's just going to fuel upside more when it turns, right? Because, you know, they missed gold and silver, and they can't afford to miss another gold and silver. And frankly, the next gold and silver is Bitcoin, because the next Fed chairman, although not a big fan of saving the stock market, is pro Bitcoin, is pro hard assets. And this is under discussed. The reason the orange man picked him is because that guy is willing to get rates lower, leave rates lower, and let the economy become more productive. Become much more productive because of technology. Productivity lowers inflation, right? You don't have to hire 27 people when 5 people can do the job with AI. Now, is that unfortunate for humans? Yes. Is that good for disinflation or deflation? It is. I just saw a headline before we came on the air, unrelated to this, but related to disinflation, or the fact that the fake inflation that was price gouging is being unwound. Like Tostitos, Frito-Lay is lowering the prices of things like Pepsi because, you know, somebody came out and said you can't buy this stuff with food stamps. Then the next thing you know, oh, look, the price is down. Less demand, price falls. Hey, economics still works. And then all this price gouging that occurs, all the package shrinkage, all the stuff that all these food companies did to take advantage of the inflation narrative is going to get unwound. It's getting unwound as we speak. Inflation is dead. It's dead. Now, of course, it was an issue, but was it exacerbated by price gouging? Was it exacerbated by certain commodity shortages? Is AI going to make the economy more productive and make inflation a joke? I'm still more worried about the labor market than I am anything else. Hey, you know what? So will this new Fed guy. You know, Powell sitting around talking about unsustainable government debt. Bro, you've been printing for years. You enabled the prior administration to blow the debt out beyond belief. And now it's a problem? No, dude, what's a problem is you screwed up on inflation, and now you're screwing up by leaving rates too high. And when that gets unwound, that's positive for crypto. That's a May catalyst. This guy's going to walk in and see a bad payroll number, and he's going to cut rates. He's not going to care where GDP is. He's not going to care about any of this stuff because that's all the AI data center build out. They can raise rates, lower rates. They can do whatever they want. That trade, the build out is happening. It's happening. It's going to affect silver. It's going to affect copper. It's going to affect anything that's going to build all these giant facilities. And frankly, we should be happy that those facilities are getting built, because as soon as those agents come online, they can be like, oh yeah, we're not using the yen, right? We're not using this, right? If anything, you know, a free computer is going to use crypto. Humans may wind up wanting to push you into a CBDC. They want to do it in Europe. And I think there's going to be a crowd of people that want to do it here. I'm sure the banks want it. The banks don't want you in regular stable coins because you're going to go to Bitcoin. You're going to go to DeFi. You're not going to use their nonsense, their monopoly on things. Of course, they don't want that. You know, to think that sovereigns have your interest at heart at this point is completely absurd. Now, let's talk about another dawn of crypto thing that is also related to tokenized assets. I think they're having a little bit of problems in legacy with the software industry. Software as a service, you know, apps, guys in cool vests with laptops all sitting around, you know, pushing button, making millions. Yeah, that's over. That's over. Software stocks will not stop going down because all software will be free. Okay. And we have the SaaS time bomb inside private credit. Whoops. Seems like banks and venture capitalists have been lending money and investing in software, and there's a ton of it, and they can't get out of their position. They can't. There are huge components of legacy that are illiquid. In other words, this distress may not be happening if they had more liquidity. If the prices of it could fall, right? If it was liquid, you may not have this level of excessive investment. Now they can't get out of anything. Lending money to a software company, no. Not happening. Software is going out of business. Everyone's like, wow, the semiconductor chips are overdone on the upside and the software stocks are overdone on the downside. No, they're not. No, they're not. Matter of fact, the only software that nobody can replicate is all these stock market morons are falling over themselves to sell Bitcoin. That's insane. The only software that you can't replicate with a chatbot is the Bitcoin network. Because it's proof of work and decentralized. Yeah, you could fork the code, but there's only one Bitcoin. That's it. There's only one Bitcoin, what I would call code base. I don't know if I have that right, but you know, you cannot just say, okay, chatbot, give me some music and some videos and make me a copy of the TikTok platform. You can't do that with the Bitcoin network. It's as simple as that. Like, in other words, if you're like, okay, Bill, you told me all this stuff. You told me to fade the FUD, but you're not giving me any hope. Dude, their software is falling apart. Bitcoin is actually doing well, in my opinion, relative to software. Because there's some hope for a Bitcoin bottom. There is no hope for a bottom in software. It's all going to be free. Software will be free in 2 years. Software may be free in 1 year. Good luck selling software. Good luck building a software company. It's over. Sadly, it's over. And that's going to have labor market implications. And you're going to have somebody in legacy have problems because you cannot have whole sectors blowing up like this. You have a Japanese interest rate blow up. You have a precious metals blow up. You have a software stock blow up. How many blow-ups can you have before this has implications for the system? Is crypto sensitive to these things? Yeah. But this decoupling, which Toby has talked about for a long time, eventually turns around in favor of crypto. Not today, but the fact that it's all decoupled means we're all set up and ready to go for when everybody wakes up and goes, why are we selling? You know, why is every government, including the American government, trying to pursue a CBDC? You know, why are they trying to freeze your funds? You got any idea what happens is, you know, if this current administration, which is serving exclusively its big private donors with a little bit of help the little man, at least that's the optics. You know, what happens when you get people in power that just are like, no, we're just going to tell you how it's going to be. We tell you, you don't tell me. It's not government by the people, for the people. It's we just tell you what to do. I mean, there's a midterm election in November. These people could take the House and the Senate. And if there's no difference between the two of them, except, you know, one group wants to either replace you or run your whole life. I mean, do you realize you've seen this thing in California? For anybody who doubts the privacy narrative, they want to charge people in California just for driving their car. So if you drive your car, you not only have to pay for gas and gas tax, but they're just going to tax you for using your car. They do not want you to be able to move around. Now, I probably can't take that point any farther and have this stream go anywhere. But you really got to start asking yourself in the middle of a giant FUD storm like this, is this the time to just totally give up? This is a time to have capital ready. Like this strategy that I came up with on the fly 3 days ago. Listen, if you raised capital at 87, you're now sitting here at 75, hoping that Polymarket's right and take it to 64. You're like, oh, great. You know, I got a bunch of capital now, and I got a bunch of capital for the real turn, which is in Patreon. Because, you know, like Zcash, like let's do some Zcash trivia. Zcash at Christmas was at 558. Zcash is now at 275. Monero at the high, like the high, not the wick, but the high close in Monero was like $715. It printed 800. Now trading at 378, no bid. No bid. Sits there. Everybody out, everybody out. Everyone loves it when it's going up, but, you know, do you want to buy the dip? It's amazing. Everyone wants to buy the dip in gold and silver. It's a no-brainer, right? Oh, yeah, buy the dip in gold and silver. Silver's an industrial metal. It'll find a new price. I'm guessing that's 100, right? It just sits at 100, just the way gold sat at like, I don't know. Gold sat at like 2,000 for a long time. Silver may sit plus or minus 15% around 100, 115, 85, 115, 85. That's normally what you get after you get a huge parabolic easy money up move. But people are more enthusiastic about buying a dip in silver. I see the macro guys who like Bitcoin. They're like, oh, yeah, this is like manipulated. This is BS. You got to buy it. And they could be right. But there's nobody going, hey, wait a minute. If everybody allocates out of crypto, if everyone pukes the Bitcoin ETF and there's some irrational selling process, which could have been today, by the way, I don't see anybody on the tape going, yeah, we got to buy the dip, except for Michael Saylor. And everyone's busy laughing him out of town. And I continue to believe, ironically, that his stock is better than the Bitcoin ETF until this law enforcement thing passes or Coinbase makes some kind of statement that says, hey, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what Coinbase is going to say. They had an investor. The guy made it indirectly through somebody else. I mean, until that's over, as far as I'm concerned, MicroStrategy is safer than the Bitcoin ETF. Even though that sounds completely crazy. I would rather own Michael Saylor stock than anything that's custodied that has custody risk. Custody risk is real now. For at least today. Today it is. But I mean, everyone's given up on this guy. I don't think that's the right move. Matter of fact, I think it's the opposite. Right? It's like now is the time to say, hey, is now the time to buy Michael Saylor? Is now the time to look at people, even Tom Lee, Even these guys who bought the high, they got the liquidity that they did because it was the high. All these guys that are getting laughed at. I mean, Tom Lee's been laughed at. This is his second round of getting laughed at. He got laughed at in 2018, and he's like, yeah, okay, we're back again. Now, I mean, he bought the high in ETH, and he got a lot of liquidity at 4,000, which is scary. You know, like it's scary how much, Vitalik was probably the seller. I think he was, right? Consensus was the one who filled a lot of their orders. But the Ethereum network usage is picking up. And no one is talking about the need for a decentralized future anymore, which is insane given what's going on with AI. Insane. Double-digit Solana. And I know I'm in some ways, I'm repeating myself. But you know what? It's okay to repeat yourself when Aero is at like 38 cents. I mean, I don't think anybody wants any more disaster P. We do disaster P on the premium VIP show, and Toby laughs at me. I mean, like theoretical downside in Aero after this breakdown is 44%. But I can't believe this chart, right? Like I did draw these lines. This is LuxAlgo, right? It's like, if Aero can't recover above 47 cents, the downside's 20. Now, I'm not picking on anyone's Aero position. This is not a way to be popular on YouTube. But I am saying into this eclipse, you have to be careful with altcoins that you're not in love with. You do. Because if this got stupid for any reason, and I gave you the reasons, right? It is the Bitcoin ETF. If they're coming out of the Bitcoin ETF, whether it's rational or irrational, because again, it's not even the crypto market. It's not even us. It's equities, right? If they just go, you know what? We're going to dump software, we're going to dump crypto, and we're going to go into semiconductors and gold. That is not an unreasonable thought process. It isn't. Right? They don't know Bitcoin is the best software in the world. They don't know that. They just know it's underperforming. Now, what's that going to do to the rest of the market? Oh, okay, well, the rest of the market's going to have problems. All right. Let's talk about something good. At the end of the day, this is probably going to create a huge rally. And if you look at this year in general, if you can manage risk properly, you may be able to catch one or two moves up and possibly another move down for a final bottom in the fall. It may be this, Bitcoin may define itself in this wild range between, I thought the range was like 75. What did we say? 75, 175 for a possible range for the year. All the way down, all the way up, all the way down. You had intense volatility in other places, you can have it in crypto. But if you don't manage risk, if you're long the wrong coins at the bottom, or you're long the wrong coins on a flush, or you get too enthusiastic at the top this year, you got to fade whatever is on Twitter, particularly when it gets extreme, which it probably is right now, right? When everybody engagement farms with FUD, it's over. Just like when everybody on TikTok is watching silver videos, it's over. Like how brutally did that end? Just flip that around. You had silver down 30% in one day. There were reasons why it was so big. Imagine that happening one day in crypto or privacy. All it takes is one property seizure, one arrest, one law, one something, and then this whole thing just goes, wait a minute, whoosh. And it may be an agent that does it. So the lesson of Japanese interest rates, the lesson of silver and gold, is you can have very abrupt moves that last way longer than you think. And that will be the story of crypto either at some point this year as a trade or as you go past this midterm election. Because once you see what the new power structure looks like, or once you see what the new political rhetoric looks like, you know, are you going to think that the mayor of New York City is a moderate by the time the midterm elections are done? I saw a video of a left-leaning congressman from Spain expressing her views that were very interesting. Not exactly pro-human, not exactly pro-you at all. We are not done. We're under the thumb of things like, you know, last year it was the tariffs. This year it's, you know, whatever the FUD of the year is. You know, it's interest rates, it's ETFs. It has nothing to do with the future of crypto. Risk management has to do with your future in crypto. Okay, let's welcome who is still here. MJ Hits says, I don't know if I can take it anymore. I think I saw that earlier. All right. Country Club Hillbilly. What's up? Rave Song Records. Members, Huckleberry Native. What's happening? Yav, all Spartan Colonels, all people who have been here for a year. God bless you, man. Freaking warriors. Right? Stefan Whelm, welcome to the show. Shelly Farmer Allen, that one-woman hedge fund. Stefan, welcome to the show. All of our members. Who else we got? We have AG47. Welcome to the show. Chillaxin, Flying Tiger, John Legend. Welcome, sir. Silas, welcoming everyone on TikTok. Okay. Oh my God. Smash Satoshi says, everyone got wrecked. We keep getting wrecked. This is idiotic. It's not funny. It is and it isn't. Okay. You're getting wrecked if you're not managing risk. Okay. Like getting wrecked is staying in certain coins that are no good. If they're last cycle's coins, you're going to get wrecked. And in an eclipse, like for example, I had a guy who I respect like epically want to talk to me about a small cap coin. And I think this small cap coin has a thesis. And I love this guy. I will not touch this thing until after the eclipse. This is going to be a lesson. Like, you know, last year eclipse was like, oh yeah, everything's going up and it's supercharging the move like gold and silver this year. Okay. An object in motion stays in motion and can accelerate into an eclipse. When the eclipse is over, then things can turn around. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. We've been talking about a scary thing in February, and then it was like, maybe a little scary, scary, not scary, scary, not too scary, scary, scary. Right? The Doghouse, what's up? Paul is here. Welcome to the show, sir. Right? Flying Tiger in the house. Mojo. Hail and Fire. Perfect names for this environment. Jason, welcoming everybody on TikTok. Ariane, GF, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. P. Sefro, John Legend, MTJM, Bitcoin Wyckoff complete. You know what? I think you're right. I think it is complete. There was a Wyckoff distribution top. You know, I saw it and I'm like, I don't believe it. These 4-year cycle guys, you know, Benjamin Cohen is out saying, I know this guy that got short at 126 and went on some Tahiti vacation. These guys are all like, yeah, I'll see you in October. I hate to say it, but everybody was saying the 4-year cycle was dead, and this thing is acting exactly like it would in a 4-year cycle process. I'm kind of hoping for a much bigger rally in this sort of slumping period. In other words, you never got a euphoric top, so you don't need the cataclysmic dump that you've had in the past. We're watching the cataclysmic dump, at least in Bitcoin. It probably is cataclysmic in other altcoins, right? A little bits working those emojis. Welcome, sir. Brandon Cypher, Mahogany. Huckleberry Native says Spartans kick it, and PWB says good morning, everybody. Bill, is Bitcoin going below 65K? Any thoughts? Okay. Honestly, my opinion is no. Okay. If there's a disaster, it's 65. That's a disaster. That would be a Bitcoin ETF liquidation combined with some kind of legacy crisis like the Japanese election. I can't even, there's so much I cover all this macro stuff, by the way, on a live stream with Crypto Princess. We do macro every day. The Patreon free group gets the link, right? I send them the link, right? The Swing Addict Trading says stock up, dude. That's the other thing about DCA. Probably didn't spend enough time talking about it. This is the DCA dream. This is everything you ever wanted. You didn't think you were going to get these prices again. You didn't. And now the ETF legacy ninnies are giving it to you, especially in privacy, right? I mean, the fact that they're wasting all these privacy coins, right? Like, you had this early enthusiasm, and then you're going to have every reason to want to have it. It's a DCA dream, right? Bubba says, buy XRP. Why not? XRP at 1 cent. What is XRP at? Let's throw the XRP chart up for anybody who actually stayed on the stream. Oh my God, look at this panic liquidation in XRP. Oh my God. Look at the heaving that's going on. This red on red give up trade. This looks like XRP people giving up on XRP, which has happened before, by the way. It happened at 55 cents. It happened when Solana took off in 10x and XRP did nothing. And you have the X signal, the LuxAlgo triangle, and red on red. I mean, my God, people, what is there to say about any additional downside in XRP? You got to be like, hey, let's do it. How much upside are you going to get? I don't know. I'll let you know when you get upside in Patreon. How much downside is left? Not as much as they say on Twitter. If they don't dump the Bitcoin ETF, this thing is going to sit here, consolidate, get its act together, and then the next thing you know, when all is said and done, and when you get spring, you're going to get spring, and you're going to regret not buying privacy. You're going to regret not buying stable coins where you can be free. Every stable coin is not going to be created equal. I'm hoping that whatever they do on the XRP network is free. And I continue to believe a Ripple IPO is going to happen. I mean, SpaceX, all these big players, why do you think they're IPOing? They're trying to sell stock to the public at a top. The most perfect thing, unless it's a Bitcoin treasury company, which, okay. The best thing for XRP is to issue stock into an overvalued stock market and then take that money to invest in an undervalued crypto market. You want an XRP story? There's an XRP story, right? Take money from equities and put it in crypto, right? Because everyone else is doing the opposite. Everybody else is like, well, I better get out of my Bitcoin ETF to buy silver. Again, silver is an industrial metal. I mean, at $30, no one cared about silver. At $120, we're doing a silver strategic reserve. Seriously. The orange man's like, whoa, wow, we better make sure we got enough metal. Yeah, okay, buddy. It's like what you should be doing is making sure you have enough Bitcoin. Because, if institutions want to sell it, we should be taking it from them. We should be taking it from them. All right, people, don't buy into the FUD. Manage risk. If morons want to sell, let them sell. Let them sell. Don't be long the wrong coins and DCA in the right ones. It's not investment advice, but I think if you can follow this plan, you will come out on top in the rally that you're going to have this year and the much bigger rally you're going to have in the future. That's the market update for today. We will see you soon.